Okay, quick recap of the markets from Monday close. So overall, markets were up. Commodities, I'd say sideways. Silver was down, slightly down actually. Commodities, banks were up. Rates were slightly mixed. Dollar was up but weak. All right, let's take a look. So S&P, we had a bit of a flush, lost the ascending. We had a bit of an update, right? Almost up 1%. But we're just retesting this ascending, so nothing too bullish, actually. So I would just say a bit of a sideways bounce day so far. Let's see what happens. Can we basically, there's only one more resistance really. It needs to go all the way back up and test its old high, let's say 460. So can it do it? I don't think it can do it. I think it's just way too overextended. And, this drop sort of did become short-term bearish. So it's just retested this ascending. Normally it should fail and then roll back over. And to be honest, if it rolls back over, by the time we do it, we're testing not just this horizontal, but very close to this ascending here. I'm not sure how much it counts actually, because it's only hit it twice. But should we lose this, we should, honestly, this shouldn't even count. We should go all the way back down to this 430. That's my take. So let's see what happens. Can it retest 460, or do we roll over and maybe start to head down to 430? That's my take so far. So the NASDAQ, pretty similar looking chart. We lost this ascending, very short-term stuff. We bounced on this horizontal. And did we retest this? We did actually on Friday, and on Monday, we didn't really retest it again. So it's a sideways day. Look up, not even 1%, and it's weak. Look at this. This is lower highs type of stuff. It's kind of a weak bounce. So I think we are going to roll over. The Nasdaq's just exhausted, generally speaking. And if we roll over, similar sort of drop. I'm not looking at the percentage. It must be very similar. 360-ish, just below 360. You can see what I mean. So that's my take. Let's see if it has what it takes to either take 385, 386 zone, 390 ultimately, right? All the way over here. Can we retest this high? If we can't, we just have to go back down to 360. Dow Jones was a bit different. Look at this strong bounce, pretty much testing its highs. So, I mean, it's had a late run and it's underperformed. So I can understand also a decent bounce on an update at this late stage. But, does it, what if the S&P, the NASDAQ rolls over? Can the Dow really keep going? It could on 1 or 2 days, but, can it go all the way to 36,000-ish? I don't think so, because it's actually only the Dow really that stands out in that respect. With the ability to test its recent highs so quickly, the others don't do it. So, if the others roll over, I'm sorry, but the Dow Jones is going to have to go back down to 34,600 breakout. Russell, look at that. Normally the Russell and the Dow are sort of together, both the weaker ones and the stronger ones, but this time wasn't the case. I mean, look, we kind of made a new low relative to the last couple of days. So not the best candle, despite it being almost a hammer. I think just like the others, just like the S&P and the NASDAQ, if they start to roll over straight back down to 190 easily. That said, the banks were quite good, and normally they are following the Russell. But look at the banks, XLF, we've sort of popped our head back up above from this descending breakout. So we're pretty close to just taking out 35.70 and pretty much running to 37. So the banks were quite strong yesterday. That's one thing. Look at the KBE, even stronger. That's almost a perfect looking chart. Testing that 42.50 zone. And if we break out, we go to at least 44. So let's see. But if the markets roll over, I don't think the banks can just keep going. But it is interesting. The banks were relatively strong. Look at the KRE, exactly the same thing. Next stop 53-ish. So that's really looking strong. The Dow and the banks are strong. Everything else is just sort of sideways. And to be honest, when you zoom out, you've got to be a bit bearish because they've run up so much and they look a bit exhausted. That's my take on the markets. Interest rates. So the short end of the curve is looking bearish and the long end is looking not so bearish. We've got this sort of, those inversion of the yield curve going on. And now there's less inversion going on, but still rates are going up. So the 1 year which normally just goes sideways up, is done with going up at least the last couple of days. It's just sideways. I'm just going to say sideways, but you've got to watch out for this 5-point sort of 3 breakdown. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of a line here. It's not the absolute low, but it's, I think 5.3 is something to watch. But that's the 1 year. Normally, I don't really watch the 1 year too much. Technically, it's just sideways up, but I've noticed, and look at the 2 year. This is where it starts to get worth watching the technicals. So you can see the last couple of days, literally, Friday and Monday drop, and then Monday there was no real bounce. I mean, there was a bounce. We can see we moved up, but where do we close? Pretty much where we closed on Friday. That's bearish. Today we'll see. It looks like it wants to go lower. Although I mean, technically it looks like it wants to go lower, but I wouldn't be surprised if it just pops its head back up, because that's what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. So be interesting to watch. If we do go back down to 4.6, we should definitely bounce. I don't see us just going down. The 5 year, a little less weak. The bounce still had a green day yesterday, but that bounce was really muted by the close. And today, let's see. I mean, let's just see, because we're in the middle of this channel. You can see resistance, you can see support. If we start looking at the 10 year, you can see it's less weak. We're holding up a bit better. Look at the bounce yesterday. On Monday, we had a nice green bounce, sort of half the losses were made up. Okay, so far today we're down, but that's kind of irrelevant. The day is so young. So it's just interesting to see the 10 and especially the 30. Look at that, we're holding up much better. So the longer, and you can see the number, 4.24. I mean, look at the 30 years now above the 5, which wasn't the case a couple of days ago. So the inversion is uninverting, let's say. But look, just zoom out, look where the 30 year is, look where we touch, a retracement is normal. So maybe after 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trading days, we're back above, this breakout zone on the 30 year. And that's very significant. 10 years, same thing. After, let's say, 2 weeks, we're at 4.3. Then who cares what happened in the next 2-3 days? And then the 2 year, what's that doing? That's probably testing also. So long, let's say medium term, short term, we could go sideways, even down. But medium term to long term, I think we're just going higher. So opportunity in the short term, maybe. And if yields go down, normally the dollar goes down too. But what if we make new highs? It's really, let's look at the dollar. Look, the dollar yesterday, that was looking like a nice bearish bounce. We had a big drop, okay, after testing resistance. That's cool. I removed the target, but I had the target here, so that was perfect resistance. Come back down here, and I would say this horizontal line acted perfectly. We closed just above it, we bounced on it. Today so far we're there. I don't think, again, just like why I placed resistance there, I don't think it's just random that it bounced there. Technicals do work. But now what happens? Yesterday it was kind of a bearish up day because it closed so low off its high of day. But we still closed on that 102-ish zone, so it wasn't technically bearish yet. And so far today we're popping our head up. Let's see also, just like yields, don't need to predict something every couple of hours. Let's just let the chart do it, because you can see the horizontal line. Do we close above, let's say, 102.7 would really do it, because then we're closing above this candle, Friday's high, but also we're clearly above the descending. But what you really want, and that's why I left this horizontal one here, 102.8, a close above that, and wow, it's pretty much done deal. You got to go to 103.5, and by then it's starting to look pretty bullish, because we've had a big flush and a massive move all the way back up from where we flushed, and that becomes bullish. That's, for me, that's just a shakeout. And then also you've got to imagine where you are. You've got all these triangulating down sloping resistance just coinciding at the same point. That's why I've got this big circle, and that could easily squeeze. So the dollar is in a very tight little wedge here, and let's see what it does. Do we close below 102, or do we close above this 102.8-ish zone? Very, very close. Something's going to happen very, very soon. I'm sure yields will take part in that. So watch the dollar Watch the dollar, right? Let's look at commodities. So with the dollars remaining pretty strong up there, you've got copper just muted. Makes sense. If the dollar goes higher, I'm sure copper will go all the way back down to the 3.75-ish zone. This ascending should act as support, but obviously if the dollar starts to rally, it's straight back down to this horizontal, but that won't even hold too long. That's probably a 1 or 2 day bounce zone. And then back to this horizontal, and then we'll see. As the dollar goes up, copper should go down. So you've got 1 ascending, 2 horizontal, 3 horizontal on the way down. On the way up, to be honest, this that has worked so well can disappear because it's now going to be 4. We've already popped our head above 3.95. And then on the way up, 4.2, but that's only if the dollar breaks down. Natural gas, this had a beautiful day. I mean, again, it was this 2.5 zone. Look, it's playing with us. It flushed, but where did it close? Above 2.5. It flushed, closed above 2.5, rallied. It comes all the way back down. It looked horrible. Flushed, where did it close? Just above 2.5, 2.505, which allowed a bounce. And look at this bounce. And yesterday was really impressive. That was the most bullish asset out there, natural gas. And look where it closed. I didn't expect it to do it that quickly, but straight above the descending, so that's done. And the next one's the horizontal, and to be honest, that's done. Because those tails up there, yeah, kind of close where those tails are, but it's better closing all these days. So for me, we can retrace, maybe back to the descending breakout, but we should go up. And to be honest, if we start to go up from here, we should go straight to this 2.93-ish zone. You've got to have a pit stop at the last high. But then we're so close to this descending breakout that it's also a squeeze candidate, just like the dollar, but there's more of a squeeze involved here. I mean, look how much it's come down, So, and, this is not some Chinese stock. This is natural gas, the commodity. A lot of people are watching it and fundamentally has a lot of reasons to go up, and now technically has a big reason to squeeze. So watch this 2.93 test, and then what? Then it should squeeze a lot more. So I still think we're going to go to this gap fill zone 4.5. Don't know how long, but technically we're looking beautiful now. And a few days ago, we're looking horrible. So natural gas, very interesting. Let's see what happens. Still bullish. Oil, to be honest, still very, very impressive. I thought we'd come back down. 82, 83, we've touched that zone. It's still hovering around there. I don't think we're going to keep going up. I mean, medium, long term, I do. But short term, it has to come down. But so far, it's still holding up. Very impressive. This staircase ascending is what's to watch. I think as soon as we close below this ascending, we should have a bit of a flush. But for sure, I think it would find support. Well, probably this zone will find support at 78, maybe 1 or 2 days. Then we'll see maybe 77. But I think if it does come low, 74 should be pretty strong support. But let's see. For now, it's still holding up here, and that's pretty impressive. If the dollar rallies, though, I do think oil will probably start to close below this ascending. But oil, amazing, very, very bullish. Very, very strong. But I'm not bullish short term. Medium and long, of course, I am. Uranium, pretty strong stuff. I mean, the markets were up, so I think uranium benefits from that. But the dollar was up. I don't know how much uranium really cares about the dollar on some days. So it was a sideways day, but it was up. And look, it's testing again this little zone, this high. I might as well move this up here now because it's done. This doesn't really matter anymore. It's done this 22.6 resistance. Now it's really the recent high, 22.8. But look, it tested it again. I think it's just going to creep up and squeeze unless the markets collapse, maybe. But uranium, very, very bullish. I'm not going to say very, very strong because it's not as strong as oil, but as soon as we take this, we go there. As soon as we take that, then it should start to fly because a lot of people will notice that we haven't been trading this high in a while. And again, it did a descending breakout, and fundamentally, nuclear power, etc., is the future. So uranium looking good. Gold and silver. So first of all, obviously I'm doing this on Tuesday morning, but otherwise silver was down a lot compared to gold. I'll say that first of all, it was down 2% pretty much, closed at low of day. So not the best look for the metals overall because, silver usually underperforms on the way down, outperforms on the way up. So to have silver down more than gold to that degree is pretty bearish. And look, the ascending now is kind of irrelevant, I would almost say, because it's been several trading days. We retested it. We failed to get above it. I could remove it. I'll leave it for now. But my thoughts are not very bullish at all. But look, dollar is where it is. So that also makes sense. I think it just depends on the dollar. You just got to watch. For now, support is low. It's 1900. Could easily test that in 1 or 2 days. Resistance, well, yeah, it's the recent high. Obviously, it's not going to get there in 1 day. If it does start to move up, we'll probably struggle at 1970 initially, but it's really 1980 what you need to close above. So those are support and resistance. The ascending, though, I don't think it really counts anymore. If you start to rally back up above here, you can't say you've reclaimed ascending. It's just been too many days. I'm going to remove it. Keep it simple. Get the horizontals in there. This one doesn't really matter too much either. Because we're trading around that area anyway. You know what? I'm just going to remove it. I like to be clearer when it's not necessary. So that's your resistance and support on gold, just hovering sideways, right? Just sideways action yesterday. Silver, not so much the sideways action. I think here I can also remove the ascending. It's done its job. I mean, you could see it tested it on 1 or 2 days, but after this flush the other day on Monday, it doesn't really matter anymore. If you reclaim ascending, yeah. So I'm just going to remove it. I don't really need it. I'll keep the horizontal, why not? But yeah, same thing, if you've got gold going down to 1900, silver is 22 point, whatever it is, 25-ish. Resistance, let's just say resistance will be obviously the old highs, but we'll probably struggle around here. Let's just say the recent highs for now. Let's just clean up the chart, if you see what I mean. But yeah, big down day. I just feel like silver, silver was outperforming gold even on the way down. On the way up, definitely on the way down, it was also. But now we sort of, we've recovered, let's say, on a relative basis back with gold. So now I think it's trading very much in line with gold, or at least a lot more, you can see. So I think now they're trading sort of together. They should, but everything depends on the dollar. So that's all I'm going to say. There's your support, your resistance, obviously resistance all the way up here, but I think silver needs to take out this before thinking about aiming towards 25 and all that. I think it just depends on the dollar. The miners, though, what I'll say about the miners is they were relatively strong, because when you got silver down 2%, you'd expect the miners down more than 2%, and they weren't even down 1%. GDXJ, which should be down more than GDX, that wasn't even down 0.5%. So some decent support down here. You can tell that we're at decent support zone. Look at these tails here, 1, 2, and then this third one. And again, we're trading as if we're at 1900 gold. So it makes sense that, after such a drop, the miners are strong where they are. And if gold, silvers don't go down, then you can definitely expect a decent bounce from this zone. So for me, that's something I noticed. I was noticing the Dow was strong yesterday. I noticed the banks were strong. I noticed the inversion reducing in interest rates. I watched natural gas was strong, but I also noticed the miners were strong. After noticing silver was so weak, and actually I noticed the miners were strong because silver was so weak. So relatively speaking, miners had a very good day yesterday. Look at this good strength here. GDXJ, GDX just above that low. So that's all I'm going to say. Support remains where I've got it. Obviously, you've got just below, if it starts to close just below where it is, it's going to go to the absolute low of this range. This June, the 29th zone. It's probably the same for the GDX. Yeah, the June 29th low, that's the absolute low. Otherwise, we have more resistance on more support on the way down. But for me, if we do start to have weakness, we go down to the absolute low, but otherwise very strong. That's it. Bitcoin, Bitcoin had a decent day by the close, but it was also a red day. So not much to say about Bitcoin. I still think it's not doing that well relative to the markets, and it's weak. That's not a strong chart. It's having 1 or 2 green days, but otherwise it's not But again, I said it needed to test this zone, and it's done that. 28,500 seems to be support. Let's see if we have a close below that. We go back down to 27,000. So yeah, let's see what happens today. Good luck.